and Christine Webster. And this is the Cook and the Gardener team. So we've been working on this really awesome idea for a cooperative that does landscaping in people's yards and converts their lawns into thriving ecosystems to sequester carbon, to increase biomass and biodiversity in our neighborhoods, and also to produce food that those owners can eat. And then if there's extra, then it will go to cooks who can make various products to sell to our communities. So that is what we've been discussing for several months. I worked with David for a while coming up with an initial business model, and now we've brought in a couple of partners to develop this further and to get this off the ground. So we're in the startup phase at this time. So you can think of this as kind of a little business incubator. So it's like you're coming into the incubator and we're going to work on the business model and also really setting up the organization to launch. So to set up this meeting, last time we discussed what governance structure we're using, and we came to the decision to try using Holacracy, which I'm fairly knowledgeable in. I've worked for a business that used Holacracy for several years. However, I want to clarify that I am not certified as a Holacracy facilitator or coach. That is a trademarked term, and I'm not charging. I'm not charging them at all. This is free, and I'm not selling my services as a trained Holacracy facilitator or coach. I'm just doing this voluntarily. I'm learning as they're learning. I do plan to get certified in it soon. That's the next thing on my to-do list. But yeah, this is just a learning experience for everyone. So since last meeting, I did my homework and brushed up on the Holacracy and went through the Constitution and took some notes. So I have my summaries here of what the governance process should look like. And I'm going to try to not overwhelm you by trying to tell you all of the details of exactly how it works all at once. We'll just address it kind of as needed. So the first part of a Holacracy meeting is a check-in, which we've been doing anyway. And the purpose of a check-in is to help people become present in the moment. So just speaking anything that's on your mind that might be distracting you. Anything that might help you kind of get in connection with each other and be more present in the moment. So let's just do a quick check-in, and let's start over on this side with Hank. Hank, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I'm excited for this meeting, and I watched the end of the first meeting between yourself, Jackie, and David for the regenerative dynamics, and this morning. So I feel like I have some good thoughts flowing from watching that, and I really enjoyed watching that.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll check in next because I'm kind of in order on the screen. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I got excited, reviewing Holacracy, and also looking forward to interacting with the audience. If you're there, I forgot to say, if you are watching this live, please interact with us. There's a chat room. Or comments on Facebook. I've got the Restream thing open here, so I should be able to see it if you give us a comment. So, please do interact with us. This is a community organization. We want as many people to be involved as possible. So let's go on to David.
It was a beautiful day today. I got out in the sun. I let my chickens out to run at about 3 o'clock. So I've been thinking a lot about where we are and trying to maintain some grounding, I suppose would be the best way to say that, because it is going to be, we can't expect immediate results. It's going to be a building process. Although right now we've got $600 in payments from clients. Hank sent me the list of people who have earned that money, and I'll be sending those checks out. So it is a real organization, and we just need to share the value proposition with a whole lot more people.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, thanks. And Christine.
That was well said, David. I'm going to go ahead and second what David said. It's a beautiful day here in Denver. And I've also, since our first meeting a couple of weeks ago, have been giving a lot of thought to grounding myself as an individual in this endeavor. I really stand behind it. David and I had regrouped a time about a week, maybe a week and a half ago, just as about me as a board member and the responsibilities I've been taking on as a volunteer for this project. So I'm feeling really optimistic. And Jackie, I appreciate you guiding us along the way.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so now to get started. So in my review of Holacracy, I was reminded that Holacracy has two different meeting processes. There's a governance meeting and there's a tactical meetings. So in governance meetings, we would redefine roles and set policies. And in tactical meetings, we would talk about operations, day-to-day kind of decisions, projects and next steps kinds of things. So those have very different meeting structures, not very different, a little different, and some different processes. And then also what we have to discuss is the business model, like revisiting that, making decisions about the structure of the organization. You know, part of what we wanted to do here was talk about actually forming a cooperative, and I do want to keep that going as a thread through this to make some progress on that. That we don't have to figure it out all at once. You know, it's important that we actually get some clients and get things going before we dive too far into incorporation. But yeah, discussing that as well. So really, you have three different kind of areas to talk about. What I'm thinking is to combine the governance meetings with the business model canvas editing stuff. Because that seems like governance. And so we could do those two things together as part of our meetings. And then the other part of our meetings would be tactical. And so we could just kind of go back and forth. So I'm thinking like every other meeting, we could start with one or the other of those. And then if we just run out of agenda items and if we still have time, then we could switch to the other one. Does that sound good to everybody?
It does.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, let's get started then. Let's go ahead and start with governance because I think we're still unclear on what Christine's role is. So we've started talking about having a communications coordinator, but we hadn't actually defined that role yet. So I feel like that might be a first thing to do. So then she can be firmly sitting in her role when we switch to a tactical meeting so she knows what she's speaking from. Does that sound good? Okay.
So yeah, so Christine has some thoughts to that. That's one of the things that she and I had talked about. And it has to do with what kind of commitment she's able to make financially and I mean, with her time, given her financial situation.
Sure.
So I think, Christine, you should just fill us in where you are on that.
Yeah, here, hold on just a second before we jump right in, because I just want to address any administrative concerns is the second thing. After the check-in for governance, the next thing is any administrative concerns. So one is that I did create a document, a separate document that just has the definitions of the roles, and I shared that with you all in a folder. And also the circle that we're in itself, which we might call the anchor circle or the general company circle, that would have a definition with a purpose, domain, accountabilities as well. And then also in this document, there's a space for policies for the entire circle and also policies for each role. So policies would be anything that allows something or restricts something. So yeah, if we make any decisions, like for example, in the coordinator role, if she's going to coordinate events, she could make a policy that if a gardener and a homeowner wanted to create or have a garden party, that they could go ahead and decide that between themselves as long as they tell her certain amount of time in advance. So that would be a policy that she could set for her own role, and she could set that just on her own because it affects her role. So we have a place to record that. So that's the only administrative concern that I have. Does anyone else have any administrative concerns before we move on? No. Okay, now switching over to the meeting notes for today, I just want to write down that this is the first agenda item that we have. And I'm just going to write governance agenda. And the first one is coordinator role. And usually we build the agendas here in the meeting. Does anyone else have any governance concerns that they would like to address as an agenda item that we could go ahead and write down?
I think we're all just trying to learn the process, so I don't have any specific suggestions right now.
Okay, we could just go ahead and jump into this one, and then if you come up with anything, we'll just add it to the list. So in agenda building in the meeting, there's this time here for anyone to call out any agenda items they want to add. And then as we go, if you think of anything, just call it out and we'll put it to the bottom of the list. Okay? Okay.
I actually do have something to add, Jackie. It
Sure.
was something that we left off on, and hopefully this is appropriate for the agenda items on governance. Mm-hmm. The last meeting, one thing I had left off with already, I feel like the introduction of this episode is even clearer than the last time. Maybe we're just getting in the groove of things, but ultimately, like, your role in the process here and what you're helping us with, I feel like is partially clear. I would love to clarify that a little more, and with your experience, even academically too, what the end goal, like, what do you envision as success for us, given what you're learning through us, would be awesome.
Okay, great, thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this first agenda item then, which is the coordinator role. So yeah, Christine, I guess you have some input on that. What would you like? And this is basically kind of your proposal. What's your proposal for your role?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an evolving thing as this project is evolving, and we're bringing more people into the fold. I feel like it warrants a little bit of backstory. We established in the first episode, I'm a brand designer, self-employed by trade, but I have been actively working towards a career pivot myself, not within my industry, but actually out of it, which for anyone watching who's been through this, it's a really difficult transition. And so I'm so lucky to have met David through my beekeeping mentor, and my beekeeping journey has really brought me to this space that I would like to explore more professionally. And so David graciously invited me to join the board of Living Systems Institute, the larger organization that we're talking about here. That oversees the Cook and Gardener project. And I have since just dived right in out of enthusiasm. Since then, and since the last episode, I would say that I've some of my work, I'm a contractor, and so some of my design work has recently renewed. It's a new year, new budgets, and so I'm between a rock and a hard place with how much I can give without sacrificing my paid work, right? A pretty obvious conundrum. And so the conversation that David and I think this is actually, I'm glad to share this because it is a reality of any kind of startup, is the give and take. And so I bring the skill set of communications, marketing, design, and branding to not only Cook and Gardener Project, but Living Systems Institute. I see from a distance what needs to be done. I see what David needs. And I even see, after the first episode, Jackie, what some areas that you think I could probably fill in. So I see what the need is. I'm faced with how much can I give to it though, because I would love to see this grow quickly and to be available to Hank and his gardeners to help as much as I possibly can. So that being said, realizing that giving myself a title here, whether that's coordinator, communications coordinator, or director of communications, which sounds pretty lofty, but not being able to be compensated for that has been tricky for me, because of my personality type 2. I want to rise to that expectation. I know what that role entails, but I realize I can't deliver on it for right now. And so anyway, you had actually, Jackie, touched on the part-time salary that I have come to David with a proposal for. Like, if we can fundraise to hire me, I can be all in. I have that flexibility as a contractor currently, and I'm very ready to leave behind my design career. But of course, that's a barrier in the way right now is funding. And so with that, I'll take a breath. Hopefully that paints a full picture for everyone as to what that means for me currently. But I continue to be here out of passion, out of support for David and Hank in this project, love for the mission, and as a board member and unpaid volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you have a proposal for a role that you want to fill? Do you need help defining that? Where are you at right now with that?
That's where I would look to David. And I think that perhaps, I don't know if this violates the rules of holacracy, but collaborate to figure out collectively what that looks like.
No, that's totally fine. As long as we don't get off track and start talking about something else, then yeah, we can totally discuss and help you build a proposal.
Sure. So are we building a proposal for my role or for a general coordinator role? Communications.
So yeah, the way holacracy works is that we work together. It's a democratic kind of process to define the roles. And then it would be the lead link's job to actually place people in those roles, because they're ultimately responsible for all of the work. If somebody doesn't do their work, then the lead link has to do it instead. So, out of that responsibility, they would assign people to roles. You can make exceptions. You could make a policy saying we're going to elect people. That's possible. But by default, it's the lead link who would assign people to those roles. But everyone in the circle gets to contribute to this process of defining the role.
Awesome. That sounds great. Yeah, and that's something that I had offered to David too. Like, I'd be happy to help write that job description, which, whether we see it as a job description or a role, tomato, I guess. But for the coordinator role, I can go ahead and kick that off in terms of responsibilities. What I see Cook and Gardner Project needs is, I think, first and foremost, a brand identity. So that is communications. Starting there, it has a name. Now it needs a face, right? Something recognizable, something that adds credibility to the project. That also goes for Living Systems Institute, but I know we're talking about the project itself right now. So I would first and foremost say a brand identity. Secondly, and maybe not in this order after this first point about brand identity, but marketing communications to 3 different segments, being gardeners, homeowners, and funders, whether that's donors or fundraising. Mm-hmm. And then thirdly, I would say a robust campaign for fundraising, whether that is to hire on people to actually help with this project or to fund some of the efforts, just typical startup costs. Mm-hmm. For Hank and his team, materials, again, ad spend, marketing, expenses, etc. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So those are top 3s. I could keep going, but
no, that's a really good start. And just to clarify, in holacracy, people can hold more than one role, so it's not the same as a job description necessarily. That's why we use the word role instead of like position or something, because you could hold, some people hold like 30 roles. I would limit it to 7 at most. But yeah, it's multiple, and it is possible for multiple people to hold the same role. But you would want to define what their focus was. So if you didn't want to fill this role completely by yourself, but you wanted to be involved in like the brand identity aspect, then you could maybe co-hold the role with David temporarily, and then you would have the focus of brand identity. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think it is a good idea to go ahead and like define this role as we would ideally like someone to fill it. I think that's a good idea you had. So yeah, we have these 3 aspects. So in the role, we need a purpose, accountabilities, and a domain. So, I mean, some of this language that you just said sounds really good for a purpose, but yeah, we need just kind of one statement for the purpose, and then we can go into more detail of all of the various accountabilities this role has. So does anyone have an idea for how to state a purpose statement? We can start with that.
Well, so the purpose is to help define and share the message in order to attract the support we need from the community to realize the goals of the organization as a whole, right? So that person that, Christine doesn't like the face I've put on the organization so far. So I'm looking forward to input in that way.
Define and share the message in order to attract the support we need from the community. Does that sound like a good purpose statement?
For the role.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone have any other ideas for that?
I think that's really well said, David. I would also add, just because I think details are so important here, define, share, and promote. Promoting is a really important aspect of that. It's an active aspect for sure.
Okay. Define, share, and promote the message in order to attract the support we need from the community. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to put this all together into one proposal. So
that's great.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
Okay.
And David, I don't work based off of what I like and what I don't like. I have to keep audience in mind. It's about what resonates with a larger audience. So there's actually nothing that I dislike or necessary. I don't have strong opinions here, so not to be taken personally.
No, it's not taken personally, and I understand that we don't have the support that we need, and that's why we're excited to have you along.
Cool. Okay, let's do accountabilities next. So this job would be accountable to specify the brand identity. What would the verb be there?
I think definitely to shape the brand identity, establish, might be a better word, but yes, shape or establish the brand identity and uphold it in the public eye. In the community, the public eye, publicly.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. Okay, I've got marketing communications to gardeners, homeowners, and funders. Is there a way we can make that a verb?
Audience, really, if we wanted to lump them together and be a little more generic, it's really our audience who we're talking to, which breaks down into those three segments. And it might be broader than that. David might have input on that, but those are definitely top three we've talked the most about.
Okay.
As a group.
Is it creating I'm not sure what the verb here is. Creating, developing.
Oh, the verb for accountabilities?
It says, yeah, for the accountability of marketing communications. How would you state that?
I thought establish and upholding are pretty good verbs to support that. Establishing the brand identity and upholding it in the public eye.
Well, that was the brand identity, but what about marketing communications? Is that different?
Brand identity being an aspect of communications.
Yeah. But I think the role would also like make marketing campaigns and stuff. Like okay, let's think of this in terms of something measurable. So like shape the brand identity and uphold it in the public eye. I mean, that obviously is a little bit difficult to measure, but you can kind of see it. You can see like, okay, this is what we defined as our brand. Are we matching that with what we put out there in the world? That's something you just kind of have to do with your eyeballs, right? But what about the accountability of actually like creating marketing material and putting it out?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand you now. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I need a moment to think. Shaping the brand identity and upholding it in the public eye. Also, accountabilities, managing campaign efforts to obtain clients. Is staff the right word for our gardeners? Fill in the blank there, David and Hank, but really the ultimate goal in this startup phase is to obtain new clients, obtain the working hands that we need to do the work, and to spread awareness.
Well, so we're trying to attract clients and gardeners, and then solicit support, financial support from the wider community, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I might just use the word workers because we talked about gardener or cooks, chefs as well eventually. So broadening it to them as well. So manage campaign efforts to obtain clients and workers. And then there's like the robust campaign for fundraising. What about creating fundraising campaigns?
Yeah, and I see the fundraising aspect, definitely an accountability of the communication coordinator. Networking is important in this role, knowing people locally, especially. Mm-hmm. So I would say networking, facilitating relationships with prospective funders, hopefully. That's the hope. Facilitating those relationships and managing those relationships and communications with the goal of obtaining fundraising funds.
I have an idea for fundraising, maybe that for some of the hours that the clients that we currently have or that we have in the future are paying, that some of that could go to a role like the communications, the person doing communications, like some portion of that monthly fee.
Adding on as part of the service, right?
Yeah, as an add-on, or just a subtraction from the gardener too, but just a lower amount for the gardener.
Okay. Sorry, my cat is laying on my mouse. I can't do anything. Okay. Okay. So I added network to gain relationships and facilitate those relationships with the goal of obtaining funds. Is that right? Maybe a little off.
It is, it is a mouthful, right? I feel like it's one part of the pie.
Or cultivate.
We're getting there. It's because it's not just funds, right, guys? Like it's funds when it comes to the networking aspect. But I feel like the three pillars or the three catalysts for networking is to obtain funds, obtain clients, and obtain gardeners. Everything kind of comes back to those three initiatives.
Right. So yeah, we're going to have startup funding for the Cook and the Gardener program, and the message has to fit in with the fact that this is a proof of concept, and then Living Systems Institute is going to take this information that we're developing and try to share that with the world. And so we're obtaining funding both for the practical aspects of the proof of concept, but also funding to share the message on a wider stage. So
yeah,
that would be the communications director is, essentially an employee or a role both in the Cook and the Gardener and in the Living Systems Institute. So
yeah. I'd maybe put something general here, like to support our purpose. Network to gain relationships and cultivate relationships to support our purpose. Nice and general. Okay. Manage campaign efforts and workers. I could just tack manage campaign efforts to obtain clients and workers and do fundraising.
Sure.
Or to support our purpose. Yeah. I liked that more general. Just trying to figure out how specific and how general. We're kind of wavering between the two, but yeah.
Thinking of it practically, in our tactical meetings, you're responsible for reporting on your progress towards meeting these accountabilities. So, it needs to be something that we could kind of look to and say, are you doing this? How are you doing it? do you have any projects on the table that are doing this? And if not, can we add a project to your list that would affect one of these things?
Mm-hmm. Another thing we could add here, and again, I know that this list could get very long and then we could probably consolidate, but I said here manage campaign efforts, but it's also producing communication materials.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Marketing.
And I have an idea for producing communication materials, but it might be more for the tactical than the governance part of the meeting.
Yeah. If you have something like an idea for a project, hold that off till the tactical. Okay, so I just added produce marketing materials and manage campaign efforts to obtain clients and workers and do fundraising. Does that sound good? Okay, so for accountabilities, we have one about shaping the brand identity, one about marketing materials and campaigns, and the other is about networking, like going to networking events kind of thing, right? And those are kind of like the three areas that this role needs to take care of, right? Is there anything we're missing?
I don't think so at this time, but for what it's worth, networking events, but it's also just connecting with funders, clients, and gardeners too. Mm-hmm. It's outreach.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then finally, domains, which could be really simple. It's like, what does this role have authority over? Is it marketing materials, how they're created, what they look like, the brand identity, anything else?
To put it simply, and to make it relatable for just about anyone, I would say domains are what the communications look, sound, feel like in general, to make it sort of tactile. It's a little bit of everything. It's working with David to refine the message, giving it personality, and then, as I mentioned earlier, upholding that consistently. Mm-hmm. So,
okay,
yes, what the communications look, sound, and feel like. Mm-hmm. Taste, smell, all of the senses.
Yeah. And then what about the practicality of like what platforms you use to market on?
I was just thinking that actually, like on a more tangible level, it would be managing all presences of the project, and that could be social presence, that could be physical in the community presence, whether that be like signage or advertisement. But yes, absolutely, Jackie. Managing presences, to kind of put it bluntly, mm-hmm. which could mean myriad things. Mm-hmm. Which is something I've been working on with David. He's given me the access to, Living Systems Institute's social media. I've been given permission to recruit help, funding, gardener help, and clientele through advertisement. So mm-hmm. that's definitely a domain.
Mm-hmm. And our newsletter.
Newsletter, correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Presence on platforms and newsletter and information. Content on platforms and in newsletters, something like that.
Yeah, close. Definitely getting there. I'm so sorry. I just had a thought. I meant to mention this earlier. Mm-hmm. For accountabilities, there's also a level of representation this role needs to do. I mean, this role really needs to believe in the mission, understand the mission, as I'm continually learning about, and really represent it, be the face of it, be able to speak to it when David's not present. So yeah, representation is very important for this. There's a lot of education, obviously, as we're all learning, that goes into this, helping people understand, helping each other understand. So sorry, okay. Representation was a keyword that came up and is distinct.
Yeah, awesome. Just represent the organization's purpose. Is there any other words you want to add to that?
No, that's good.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So we just have these 2 domains then, what the communications look, sound, and feel like, and presence and content on platforms and in newsletters.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
So Hank and David, something that's coming to mind too that I feel like is related, it's at least maybe not a domain for the communications coordinator, but I feel like it's something that they can help with. And we've talked about this, is really like a menu of services, the offerings, establishing that when it comes to pricing model. So I don't know, any thoughts on that?
Pricing models. So you're talking about assisting the gardeners decide how much they're going to charge for things? Is that what you're talking about?
More like taking whatever that input is from you and Hank and formatting it so that it is coherent to prospective clients, gardeners, and funders.
Helping us make proposals to clients for particular services, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, making proposals. We kind of talked about this at our gardeners meeting, the in-person one where we talked about like, what do each of those tiers look like? What is offered? How do those packages kind of come together? Are they unique for every customer? So lots to elaborate on there, but I feel like this role could assist in giving language to that.
Yeah. So would that be an accountability of creating language for packages and proposals?
Yeah, I think so. Just really language around the offerings of the project in general. Yeah. A lot of accountabilities for this role. There's probably more.
create language for offerings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can speak to the need for a discussion about what different services look like as far as like a pricing model, because like today I was talking to a gardener that has a truck about using his truck to assist, and we were just trying to come to a decision on what sort of what will he be paid for gardening and also using his truck as part of the process. And I could definitely that's just one example of different things that have to be decided, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, nice example. Okay, so it looks like we have a proposal. And in any governance meeting, someone can make an agenda item to edit this and make a proposal, and we can always change it. So moving on to the next step of the process would be, I'm handing this over to Christine because this is her tension to create this role. So we go now into the decision-making process for governance. So basically, hold on. Gotta make sure I do this right. Okay, so first is clarifying questions. Does anyone have any clarifying questions about this proposal?
So you're not going to be a full-time employee of the Cook and the Gardener Project or the Living Systems Institute for the time being. So these accountabilities are something that you're going to have to share back with the rest of this board, right? Or the rest of this group on what you're going to be able to accomplish when we get to the tactical part of it. We say, these are the things we would like to have, and Christine can say back to us, these are the things I'm able to provide within the time I have available.
So that's a question for Christine because she's holding the proposal.
Can you put that in question format, David?
So do we understand this properly, that because of your time limitations, we would be sitting in a tactical meeting discussing what we would like to see in the way of communications, and it would be up to you to come back to us and say, these are, of all the things we'd like to have, these are the things I'm able to accomplish at this time because I also have another life to live or have to earn money.
Yes, yes. If we have a tactical meeting that we're looking forward to, I know we talked about that in the last episode, then yeah, I can determine what it is tactically that I can give pro bono.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm thinking what this would look like is that David would be kind of holding the role with Christine as an assistant. So, I mean, ultimately, David would be responsible for making sure that these things get done since he's kind of the leader of this team. And then, he would just kind of pass off whatever to Christine, whatever she can handle.
Right. And everything else will have to wait until we find the resources to do it.
Yeah.
And it was the same with you, Hank, when we've got tactically, there's certain things that we need to see from the lead gardener. And then, so long as you also have to earn a living and you're not doing this full time as a gardener, then, you have to come back to us and say, I'm able to do this part of what we're talking about. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is this would this be a recurring conversation, like on a monthly basis, or is this just something that we establish in one tactical meeting moving forward for the foreseeable future?
Well, so we're going to have an ongoing dynamic situation in which we're all going to be doing the best we can with the resources we've got, but we need to communicate among each other in terms of what can we expect from Christine, what can we expect from Hank, what can we expect from David, et cetera, right?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, if things are just not moving along very quickly, it's just like maybe Christine and David are co-holding the role, and just whatever Christine can get done will get done. And that's it.
Right. Well, but we want the input. When we get to tactical, I've got some questions for Hank about what the gardeners could really use, because I'm just kind of drafting in the dark about what I think they might be able to use. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep moving on so we can get to that. Okay. So if there's no more clarifying questions, then the next step is a reaction round. So each have an opportunity to say, I think this, I like this, I don't like this, just your reaction to it. So I'll just hand it off to you. And if you want to say pass, you can pass, or just say something simple. So let's start with Hank. Hank, your reaction.
Sounds like fundraising is an important part of the role that we just proposed.
Okay. So are you in agreement with the proposal in general?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So for me, I think it's great. David?
Yes, we're on the right track.
Okay. Christine?
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, you're holding the proposal, so you don't need to answer.
Yeah.
It's your turn, though, because it's your chance to amend or clarify if that's needed, which it doesn't seem like it needs it to be amended or clarified. So now we go to the objection round. Hank, do you have an objection?
Yeah.
I do not have
I do not.
I do not have an objection. David, do you have an objection?
No.
Okay, then it passes. We're done. Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item. My role. So in Holacracy, there's a facilitator is actually an elected role, as is secretary. And then if we had a circle above us, we would also be electing a representative for that circle to represent our needs higher up. But, as it is, the facilitator and secretary are elected positions. I'm already facilitating, so I'm just going to take a de facto that I have been elected as the facilitator. At any time, anyone can say, I want to hold a new election, and then a new election would be held to replace that facilitator or the secretary. I'm also asking to hold the secretary position right now because the secretary is the person who answers questions about governance issues and also schedules the meetings, which I've been doing. So it seems that I'm holding both of those roles right now. Again, if you want to replace me, say you want to hold an election. As a person holding just those roles, I am entitled to participate fully in the meeting. I can make a proposal, I can make objections. So I am participating in that capacity. As for like operationally, at this point, I'm not sure yet. Like, I would like to do something similar to this here in Norman, but I'm not sure like how that's going to look like. So I don't know about taking on any other roles at this time. Yeah, and as for the goal, I guess there is this additional goal of wanting to help you clarify and keep that business model up to date, and wanting to see you, turn that into a reality, and want to facilitate you to do that. So I suppose that could be like an accountability that could be added to a facility, because you can add accountabilities to the facilitator role. I don't know if it needs to be a separate thing. I mean, there could be a separate role for like business model generator or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Were you thinking something else, or is that sufficient?
Well, okay, so you're facilitating this group here. But I would like that to grow into also facilitating the gardeners as a unit. So if that's something that you're willing to take on, I would like to add that possibility. Let's say that.
Like facilitating tactical meetings for the gardeners.
Yes.
Well,
also governance meetings, because I mean that's our whole goal of the holacracy, is that the ultimate decision-making responsibility lies with the people actually doing the work.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if the gardeners, because the role of gardener, we should define that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Really, everyone here should be defined.
Yeah. I haven't worked in a holacratic organization that had the same role being replicated by multiple people. So I'm thinking through like what that looks like when like the same people are holding the same role, but they're doing it in different instances. I mean, of course, that would always happen with like a retail situation, a cashier, like I just haven't worked in an organization that did that, so I'm not sure how that looks as far as meetings go. But I guess those people would be holding the same role.
Well, and so let me just give you an example. Is that Hank had earlier mentioned that maybe the gardeners want to share a portion of what they're earning in order to support a marketing effort. So that's something that the gardeners would have to vote on. And they need to understand that that's within their authority to decide how are we going to support a central administration for the partnership when they are in control of the funds that they earn as individuals.
Okay. So, I mean, one way we could do it is to make a role in the circle that is gardener, and then the gardeners can meet and have, whatever decision-making process, if they want to use holacracy or anything, then they elect someone to be the representative of the gardeners in these meetings.
Sure. So we've elected Hank as the lead gardener in this case, and he's fulfilling that role right now.
Right.
I'm
not sure if it's the same. Well, I'm not sure if it's the same thing. It kind of is. I mean, if we had a separate circle for gardeners and he was the lead link to that, they would still get to elect another person to be their rep link. They would be double linked with this. So this circle is assigning him to be the lead link of that circle, and then that circle elects someone to be the rep link. up to this link, up to this circle.
Okay.
So
more the better.
We could do it that way as well. But in a typical situation, if you have more than one person filling the same role, they would just choose one of them to come to the meetings and act like their rep link, even if they didn't have a lead link.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And I kind of feel like Hank's role is a little bit further defined. He's not just another gardener. He has kind of a special role within the gardener team. So yeah, it seems like maybe he should be the lead link to then that separate circle where they are going to maybe have other roles that they assign to each other to be a part of that group. Okay. So that seems almost like a okay, we're getting off track. Before we move on, I just want to make it official. Jackie is the facilitator and secretary, and then add accountability to facilitator role to update and maintain the business model canvas. Does that sound good as a proposal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just go through this really quickly. Any clarifying questions?
No.
Okay, reaction round. Hank.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think what I'm hearing sounds good about the setting up a separate meeting for the gardeners or a separate circle.
Well, I'm getting to that. I'm trying to finish the me role thing first.
Okay. Yeah, your role sounds good. What we discussed.
Okay. And David, do you have any reaction to me being facilitator and secretary and updating the business model canvas?
I appreciate your contributions
and
your willingness to step up.
Okay, cool. And Christine?
Yes, I think it's great. And I just want to thank you for doing that. I don't have any formal experience in governance, so this is also new for me. And so that was a great introduction.
Okay.
I do have a question, a clarifying question. Where are you operating from?
I'm in Norman, Oklahoma.
Norman, Oklahoma. Okay. Great.
Cool. And I don't have any amendments or clarifications. Hank, do you have an objection?
No.
David, do you have an objection?
No.
Christine, do you have an objection?
No.
Okay, we're going to get fast at this. Okay.
Yeah.
And I promise when we get good at it, Holacracy goes a lot faster than other structures. Okay, so then we had one other agenda item which was kind of thrown on here of gardener circle. Or gardener subcircle. So this is actually a proposal to create a subcircle that is for the gardeners and to assign Hank to be as the, what is Hank's role's name again? Sorry.
Lead gardener.
Lead gardener. I think I had it on here as something else. Product developer. Is that different?
Well, so that's a role that we would like somebody to take on down the road when we have a bunch of gardeners doing similar work on properties all over town. We need somebody to help develop best practices. And so we're not at that point yet.
Okay, so this is actually creating a new role that we had not before defined. Which we don't even really need to define because lead link kind of encompasses that unless we wanted to add something to the accountabilities of the lead link that wouldn't normally be there. But okay. Give me a second. I'm figuring this out. Okay. What we need to do is create the subcircle because the lead link is just ultimately responsible for whatever the subcircle is supposed to do. So if we just define what the gardener subcircle is supposed to do, then Hank's position would just be to make sure that happens and to delegate things out to the rest of the team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, although right now, Hank's responsibility is to keep in touch with all the homeowners and and do his best he can to get a gardener to actually provide services to the homeowners, which could be himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, so, okay.
So
So,
once you have once you have a circle of gardeners that are making these decisions, they can change what the lead gardener does and add things like best practices development and that sort of thing.
wait, are you saying that the product developer is in the gardener team? Should that be a role within the subcircle?
um, I don't know as it has to be, but right now, the person who is developing best practices needs to be actually doing the work. So that would make them a gardener and then have this additional responsibility, which then potentially also has additional compensation for that.
I see an interesting hybrid role happening here, because I could see how communications would come into the product designer as well. It's an interesting overlap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of feel like I would like the product developer to be in this circle, in this general company circle. I'm going to call it the anchor circle because it's just easier to say. Anchor circle. That they would come to these meetings because it seems like a pretty top level thing defining what the products are that we're creating. And then the gardener subcircle would be more about like, how do we get compost here, or how do we get these tools shared amongst us, or those kinds of decisions that don't need to be made in this circle.
Right. Well, so yeah, also I need help with this project. Who is willing to step up and help me?
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing doesn't need to be made in this circle. It would make sense for that to be a subcircle. It would make sense for Hank to be the lead link for that circle. But Hank could also fill the product developer role.
Sure.
It could be both.
And we could all help him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think we should define the gardener subcircle and make Hank the lead link, but we need to define it first. Hold on, I need to add spaces at the bottom of this so I can see the whole thing. Okay, so going back to notes as a proposal then. I'm not OCD at all. Okay, so the purpose of the gardener subcircle, what is it? Hank?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I'm sure I'm going to say what David said to me in the past. But the gardener is at a base level committing 4 hours a month per client or per homeowner to provide the service of cycling carbon on their property, and potentially in addition there may be other projects, bigger projects that would be defined at that point, like greenhouses, chicken coops, and um, uh, hugelcultures or deep mulch garden beds. And at that time we would come up with what those additional hours would look like. And the gardener is also looking to encourage the homeowners to talk to their neighbors and say, we're interested in producing food locally and we're learning more about it and trying to do things in maybe a slightly different way and trying to build a network through there. And those are some of the gardeners' roles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if the gardeners come together periodically in a circle and talk about you know, who's doing what, how we are being successful, what is the information we need to give to the homeowners, um, you know, and then who's ready to start a new project, right? And then and then the final step then is that we need this kind of support. We need help with our marketing effort. We have a bid from somebody to do this type of work from us. That means that everybody's going to give 1% of their income for the next year in order to pay for that. Are we going to vote on that? How are we going to do that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that those gardeners get to decide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I've got a purpose. What I have written down is provide the services of cycling carbon and building infrastructure on customers' property. Does that sound about right? Close? Something like that?
Well, so that's the service we're providing for the homeowners. The role of the circle, of the gardeners coming together
Mm-hmm.
to make joint decisions, I think is a little bit different than that.
Okay. How is it different?
How would I say that? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I think having the gardener meeting is a good first step. So having the gardener circle come together and discussing. I've been talking individually to gardeners, but I have not had a gardener meeting all together since our last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that was something we talked about then. I think that is the next step that it sounds to me like is something that David and Christine are bringing up.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to get really into this as far as getting the wording right, because I think it's just important that we know that we have a circle. So we could just get a real rough draft here, you know. So they're providing services. They're making sure that those services get provided to customers. You know, well, that's kind of why the gardeners are getting together. So this seems like close to what they're supposed to be doing. Accountabilities would include, what would they need to do that?
The skill development of the individual gardeners through participating in the circle, right?
Develop skills.
Yeah.
Materials and like collect and distribute, like something about materials and tools.
Find the necessary resources, maybe.
Find and share tools and materials.
Right.
I like materials and tools better.
Procure.
Yeah. For materials and tools, and like support each other or something like that.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Each other. Okay. And then domain, how they work with the clients, right?
Right.
Okay.
Do you guys consider customer like client management or client relationships, maintaining that as an accountability, or does that all fall on Hank as lead?
It falls on each individual gardener for whatever clients that they own, that they're providing service for. And so there's two categories, right? There's the homeowners that come in based on Christine's effort. And then Hankins, the lead gardener, is working with the other gardeners to make sure that the appropriate gardener gets to that homeowner based on skill level and location and whatever other aspects that we want to make on that. But then each gardener can go out and find their own clients. And so they need to have that develop that skill of maintaining a healthy relationship with their clients.
So anything that we assign to this role anything we there's an echo. Who's got the echo?
I'm hearing it.
Sorry. Okay, anything we assign to the role that I said it wrong again. Anything we assign to the circle that circle is allowed to delegate to its roles. So if we don't assign it to the circle, that circle is not allowed to delegate it to the roles. So it would make sense for us to put something about providing good customer service or pleasing the clients, or however we want to put that. It is an accountability of the circle as a whole that it is then delegating to the gardeners individually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So how do you want to say that?
No, you said it fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think providing good customer service or otherwise and timely too. Otherwise, the client will not want to continue the partnership.
Okay, I'm just going to provide good customer service. Okay, so we have the purpose of provide the services of cycling carbon and building infrastructure on clients' properties. Accountabilities are develop skills, find and share materials and tools, support each other, and provide good customer service. And the domain is how gardeners work with clients. Okay?
Yes.
Any clarifying questions on that?
No.
Okay, any reactions?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. Christine, what do you think?
No objections, no reactions other than I think it's great. It's a great start.
Okay, great. And then, so Hank, do you have any objections?
No.
Okay. David, do you have any objections?
No.
Christine, do you have any objections? Okay.
No.
Okay, it passes. We are now ready to move on. Okay, we now have a gardener subcircle. So, David, are you assigning Hank to that subcircle as the lead link?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that within my authority?
I'm assuming you're the lead link here. It is possible to have an anchor circle without a lead link, but then we would have to make a proposal for everything like that. So it just makes sense for you to just say yes. Okay. It's easier.
Hank, I have offered, and Hank has accepted the position of lead gardener, and so he is now taking on this responsibility for the gardening circle. But
okay, great. And we didn't officially specify what was happening with the coordinator role. So, David, are you saying that you are sharing the role with Christine?
The coordinator.
The communication coordinator.
Sure. Christine and I are going to develop the face of the organization.
Okay.
Based on my years of working at it and her insight in towards what our audience is actually looking for.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, yay, we did 3 things. And we're kind of out of time, and didn't somebody need to leave or something?
I gotta stop. Oh yeah, Hank does too.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna have time to do a tactical thing unless you just want to throw it out there really quick. Is there something like a project or next step that you want to just put on the table real quick?
No, I don't want to do it right now. I think we've got all sorts of projects in the works, and I think we can, each of us, move forward with what we are doing and reach out to the rest of us if you need any kind of assistance.
Okay, because yeah, I mean, tactical is basically to update us on projects and next steps, and then to propose any new projects or next steps. So if there's nothing on that needs to be done right now, then I'd say we're good. And next time we'll start with tactical. So think about that. Also to think about for next time, the first 2 parts of the tactical meeting are to go through a checklist. If there's anything that is recurring that you're supposed to be doing every time, every week, or every 2 weeks, to just go, did this get done? Did this get done? Did this get done? So you can think if there's anything that we should have on your checklist like that. And then the other thing is metrics. So how many customers do we have? How many gardeners do we have? We can just update that at every meeting. So think about what you'd like to do for those 2 things. And then the rest of the meetings are triaging, what projects need to be done, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay, Great. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for anyone who's watching this. Even if it's after the fact, you can join us next time. If you go to regenerativerevolution.org, you will go to my website and you can see this is embedded, so you can watch it there, but it's also streaming to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and you can click on the links there to go to those platforms to see it there. And there's a calendar that has all of my upcoming things. We're kind of getting good about scheduling this ahead of time, so I'm not surprised no one's here, because we kind of like shifted around the time and got it on the calendar at the very last minute. But next time, hopefully, we'll have enough time for you to see that it's coming up and join us. That's on my website, and also link to my Patreon pages there if you'd like to support me on Patreon. So thank you everyone for coming. Oh, there is supposed to be a closing round, so does anyone have anything they'd like to share before we get off? Hank?
Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thank you.
Christine?
I concur. Thank you all very much for your efforts today.
All right, so we need to go. We'll see you next time. Bye.